Good morning and welcome to the 2020 ceremony recognizing the graduating class of the Tufts Maine Track program. I'm Jeff Sanders, the president of Maine Medical Center. It's my honor to welcome you here today. I want to congratulate our graduates and wish you the very best as you continue your training starting this summer. I want to give a shout out to your families who have supported you to this point and will continue to support you with their love and support as you continue your training. I want to thank our faculty here in Portland, the faculty down in Boston, for the great education that they have provided you. I want to make a prediction. My prediction is this graduating class will be the most innovative class that graduates. You've seen and experience things at the end of your education and going forward for the next period of time that no one has seen for 100 years, and how we had to adjust your education and how you're going to have to adjust as you enter your training, and how you engage patients, how you engage the broader care team, and you'll be great at that. Because of the unique time we find ourselves in, I have the opportunity a couple times a week to talk with our broader leadership team here across Maine Medical Center. I often end the call with a few takeaways that I think are important for every one of us, and I want to share them with you this morning. And they're thoughts to be positive, to be flexible, to be thankful, to be kind to one another, and lastly, to lead. You're entering a profession at a very critical time. You'll all end up in different parts of the profession, some in public health, some in primary care, some in specialty care. Some may choose the route that I've chosen in leadership and administrative. I challenge you to lead. The profession needs that, the patients you care for, and the communities that you will serve need that. Thank you, and the best of luck to you.
Hello everyone, my name is Peter Bates, and it is my honor to be the interim dean for Tufts University School of Medicine. To all of our friends and colleagues at Maine Medical Center and throughout Maine Health and the Maine Track program, thank you for making Maine Track successful. This is a signature program within our school and university, a wonderful partnership, and it's your hard work and creativity, as well as the dedication of our students, that brings us to this 8th graduation celebration. I'd hoped to be with you today to exchange new ideas, handshakes, and maybe even a few hugs, but SARS-CoV-2 got in the way. When all this passes, I look forward to having those opportunities again. For those of you in the class of 2020, I remember meeting you during the annual McCusick Lecture on July 28, 2016, which was your very first day of medical school. I had the pleasure of working with 5 of you in the Introduction to Clinical Reasoning course, and more of you during the Healthcare Improvement course in your 3rd year. You've always been a high-performing class, and your residency placements demonstrate not only the high regard your faculty have for you, but also your sense of purpose in choosing programs that best prepare you for your chosen career path. No one could have envisioned all the turmoil you were experiencing during this time of celebration with family and friends. I congratulate you on your accomplishments, and you also have my admiration for the resilience you've demonstrated throughout this pandemic. As you know, one of our most dedicated and talented leaders is your Dean of Students, Dr. Amy Kulik. She's also your greatest advocate. It's my pleasure to introduce her now, and she in turn will introduce today's graduating class speaker. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to participate in the Maine Track celebration. This is the first time I've been out of sweatpants in the last 4 weeks, and I have you to thank for that as well. Before I introduce today's student speaker, I'd like to give my heartfelt congratulations to the Maine Track class of 2020. You're graduating at a time when the world is depending on you to be courageous, compassionate, and dedicated, and as our newest graduates, to bring your fresh intellectual curiosity and ingenuity to your work. Tufts and Maine are better because you were here, and I know your residency programs will soon feel the same way. Next, you'll hear from a classmate whose diverse life experiences embody what makes you all so special. Born in Bath, raised in Brunswick, a Mainer for sure, but a citizen of the broader world, Sydney Ford truly epitomizes the Maine Track student body. Sydney left Maine and the United States for college, graduating with a degree in international relations from the University of St. Andrews in Scotland, before pursuing her MPH degree from Boston University, where she concentrated in global health. She then returned to Maine to complete her post-baccalaureate pre-medical requirements at the University of Southern Maine before joining our Tufts Maine Track program. Sydney has the spirit of a Mainer. She's a registered sea kayak guide, a CrossFit trainer, and an accomplished tennis player. She's someone for whom the outdoor beckons. At Tufts, Sydney broadened her experience by joining the Sam W. Ho Health Justice Scholars Program, where she engaged in additional coursework to help her develop the skills necessary to care for patients from disadvantaged communities. With her background in public health, Sydney pursued her interest in addiction medicine, serving as co-president of the Student Addiction Medicine Group during her pre-clerkship years, and developing protocols and training for medication-assisted treatment for opioid use disorder during her time in the LIC at Damariscotta. Sydney's exceptional commitment to the community was recognized by her induction into our Honest Civicus Society last fall. One of the most apt descriptions of Sydney comes from her clinical evaluations in the LIC, and I quote, "Working with Sydney is the reason I do this, teach in the LIC." Sydney is the absolute model of what a rural physician in training should be: intelligent, hardworking, humble, compassionate, mature beyond her years, and an absolute sponge when it comes to learning, end quote. In a few weeks, Sydney will be moving to Wilmington, Delaware to continue her training in obstetrics and gynecology at Christiana Healthcare, following in the footsteps of a Maine Track student from last year. If I had to guess, though, I'd say Sydney's just on loan to Delaware. In a few short years, I expect she'll be back in Maine, where it all began nearly 29 years ago. Without further ado, your graduation speaker, Dr. Sydney Ford.
Dear Maine Track Class of 2020, my heart is so full to be given the incredible honor of speaking to you on this momentous occasion. And I am even more thrilled that I didn't have to change out of my pajama pants to do so. Our graduation marks not only the end of 4 years of effort and growth, but the beginning of the rest of our careers. This is, of course, an exciting occasion, but I do want to acknowledge the disappointment and loss that many of us feel in not being able to gather to celebrate this time with our friends and family. To say that we have worked hard for this is both an understatement and misses the mark. Our commencement ceremony celebrates our academic accomplishments, but perhaps more importantly, it acknowledges the sacrifices that our loved ones and our communities have made for us to be here. Today, we should be celebrating and thanking our support systems, and to be physically distant from them is heartbreaking. While we have had a tumultuous end to this chapter in our education, it has demonstrated to me the incredible motivation of our class to remain involved in the care of our community and each other. Faced with an extraordinary situation, our class has mobilized to donate blood, babysit children of those on the front lines, support infrastructure for people experiencing homelessness, and care for sick family members. We have had countless virtual check-ins, cooked with each other over FaceTime, and shared a glass of wine or two over Zoom. These challenging times have made me that much more grateful for and proud of you. And even though we cannot celebrate in the traditional way, I want to congratulate each and every one of you for reaching this important milestone. It feels impossible to address an audience of health professionals without mentioning the future implications of COVID-19, not just for our profession as a whole, but for us as individuals. In a few short weeks, we will be entering a healthcare system that in many ways is different from the one we left abruptly a few Mondays ago when we were pulled from the wards. The effects of this pandemic will be felt across disciplines, and many of the policies and protocols adopted during this time of crisis will change the way we practice medicine going forward. There are many parallels between our experience of this pandemic and of medical school. As is so evident today, medicine is unpredictable. It forces us to be adaptable, self-reflective, and open to change. Our academic and clinical experiences have pushed us to recognize and identify uncertainty and to make decisions based on the best information possible, even when that information is incomplete, inconsistent, or unavailable. I know I'm not alone when I say that my response to this pandemic on a personal level has felt like I am simultaneously doing too much and not doing enough. Yet this is not an unfamiliar feeling for a medical student. It constantly feels like you could do more to prepare for the next exam, the next case, the next patient encounter. Perhaps one of the most important skills we have been practicing and will continue to work on for our entire careers is finding the point between doing too much and too little, developing our own interpretation of balance in our lives, knowing that in order to care for others, we must also care for ourselves. Social distancing has left many of us feeling isolated and disconnected, and in many ways, medicine can feel like an isolating profession. We all know how hard it is to explain our day to those who are not walking this road with us, how there is always something lost in translation, how many experiences in medicine are so hard to put into words. We can witness both incredible joy and tragedy on the same day, and there often isn't time to digest and reflect upon these important moments. Processing such intensity on your own can be a lonely experience. I want to remind you that your med school classmates will always be people in your life who do understand. I hope you will reach out and share these moments because they remind us that we're not in this alone, that we've gained a community and a family. When I was asked to give this speech, I had a few things that I wanted to talk about, none of which included a global pandemic. While COVID-19 is certainly on the forefront of our minds as a medical community, it is important to acknowledge that crises such as these expose the inadequacies and inequities of our healthcare system. Underserved and marginalized populations continue to be disproportionately affected, not only by the virus itself, but by the subsequent social restrictions and economic hardship. The lack of preventative care during this time will have far-reaching consequences that we will be addressing as residents in every specialty. This is a critical time to keep the needs of the disadvantaged in mind when developing our response. We need scientific advances like testing, vaccines, and treatment options, but we must introduce these interventions with deliberate intention towards equal access so as not to perpetuate health disparities in our communities. In the aftermath of this crisis, we must do more than ever, refusing to return to the status quo, but rather demanding a level of equity that was not present before. Medicine is noble and it can do great acts of good, but it is not always fair. I hope that as we take our places in July, we will use our voice to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. I hope that we will challenge ourselves to examine our own biases, our own lack of awareness, and educate ourselves and each other on how to best respond to the needs of our communities. As we enter this time of critical decision-making about the future of healthcare, I want to extend a call to action to all of my classmates, but especially to my fellow women in medicine, to take on leadership roles in their medical communities and to become part of the discussion about the mission and direction of your departments, your hospitals, and your government. As a soon-to-be OBGYN, I feel as though my role as an advocate for women extends beyond my patients to my colleagues in medicine. For many years, women have been pursuing medical careers at equal rates to men, yet women are vastly underrepresented in leadership positions, making up only 18% of hospital CEOs and 16% of deans and department chairs. As the first female student speaker at a Maine track commencement ceremony, I must acknowledge the outstanding mentorship that I have received from women physicians throughout my training. I am so privileged to have worked with a number of brilliant, skillful doctors and surgeons who have demonstrated how to practice medicine with excellence and grace. But I feel even luckier to have gotten to know these same physicians as women, as mothers, and as friends. As many of you know, I have been fortunate to have my biggest physician role model, and perhaps my biggest fan, close by my side for the past 4 years. My mom has taught me many things, but her wisdom and support throughout this process has shown me that not only is it possible to be a good doctor and a good mother, but that those life experiences give you insight into the world in a way that makes you better at both. When you Google how to write graduation speeches, which I have done more than I care to admit leading up to this, it says you should end with advice for your fellow graduates. It feels impossible and disingenuous to give advice to a group of people that I look up to every single day, who have supported me through the toughest times yet, and who impress and inspire me with their intellect, maturity, and kindness. Instead of giving you advice, I thought I'd share one of those experiences with you today. Out of happy circumstance, the person I have spent the most time with in medical school is probably Micah. So most of my stories involve him. We all know how smart he is and how he's probably one of the only people in our class who truly understands hyponatremia. But I think I might be one of the only people who knows what a comfort he is to patients, how he doesn't love the OR but is always the best sport about it, and how he is already a pillar of his community. During third year, we cared for a patient during her pregnancy who had experienced a tragic infant loss not long before. The day of her C-section, I scrubbed in as an assistant and Micah waited with peds. In a small town, a loss like that is felt throughout the community, and much of the operating room team had been present on that difficult day. The intensity was palpable. You could feel the mental energy focused on this mom and her baby. I thought about everyone's journey getting to this day in this OR. All the years of education and training, textbooks, sleepless nights, cups of coffee, sacrifices, milestones. Multiple lifetimes of experiences gave this team the skills to bring this baby safely into the world. When I glanced over to Micah, looking so professional in his dark green scrubs, I was suddenly aware of how far we had come. 3 years ago, we had sat in the library, Micah explaining to me how the collecting duct of the kidney worked, which I still don't understand. And now we were actively caring for patients. I was retracting, clamping the cord, sewing. He was giving APGAR scores, assessing and protecting this baby in her first few minutes of life. We were finally doing the things that we will be doing for years as an OB and a pediatrician. Our futures felt real and not so far away in that moment. I was so proud of us and so excited to be part of that accomplished and talented team. You all have taught me that this team that we have is strong, competent, and capable. That we have grown immensely since our humble beginnings on Cow Island. That we are ready for the next step. That we will be excellent providers, surgeons, and leaders in our field. That collaboration gets you further than competition, and that kindness and a sense of humor can get you through the day. That we have an opportunity that so few have, that it is an incredible privilege to be so intimately involved in people's lives, that we can never take this for granted. I wish I could be with you to shake your hand, give you a hug, and wish you all the best as you take this big step into the next chapter of your life. Congratulations, doctors. Good luck.
Thank you, Sydney, for your insights, reflections, and thoughtful advice for your classmates. Wonderful job. You've given us something to remember this day by. My name is Doug Sawyer, and I serve as Chief Academic Officer for Maine Medical Center and as the local Dean of the Maine Track Program for Tufts University School of Medicine. It's truly an honor to be with you today to celebrate the great accomplishments of the Maine Track Class of 2020. It's also my honor to introduce their selected keynote speaker, a member of our community and a colleague, Dr. Renee Fay LeBlanc. She's an outstanding person to have come speak to our graduates as they head out to the next phase of their careers. You might say that Dr. Fay LeBlanc is the prototype of the Maine Track program. Dr. Renee, as she's known in her local practice, grew up in Portland, Maine, and After going to college in Massachusetts and spending a year in Guyana learning traditional healing, she returned to New England and attended University of Vermont to get her MD. She went back to New York City to train in internal medicine before returning to her hometown of Portland, where she's practiced as a primary care physician since. She was part of Maine Medical Partners for a number of years, and in 2014 took on the leadership role of Chief Medical Officer for what was then known as Greater Portland Community Health. Since that time, she's grown their services that provided to important and often underserved members of our community, and has led a consistently outstanding organization recognized in the community for providing outstanding care without exception. Now known as Portland Greater Community Health, the services have grown to include behavioral health and dental services, and the team of caregivers there is one that is truly focused on providing patient-centered care to every patient in need. Dr. Faye LeBlanc is a leader in her practice, a leader in our community that is much like the one that Sydney was referring to in her remarks. With great pleasure, thank you, Dr. Renee, for joining us today and to share your thoughts with the class of 2020.
Thank you for inviting me to speak with you today. I am truly honored to be here. I suspect this is not the celebration you envisioned when you looked forward to this day. I suspect you thought we'd all come together in one room to celebrate this major milestone, to thank teachers, mentors, friends, and family for their support and encouragement. It is important to honor and acknowledge those things that are not as we imagined they would be, and at the same time, to celebrate what is. Today, we celebrate years of hard work and determination. Today, we celebrate increased responsibility. Today, we celebrate the ending of one chapter and the beginning of a new one. What a wonderful, exciting, uncertain, and terrifying time to jump into residency. Some of you will be staying in Portland, while others will be moving to states far away. Whether near or far, you will all be entering a new world. One where people look at you to make decisions, to sign off on medications, order tests, perform procedures and surgeries, help life enter the world, and have end-of-life discussions. Some of you may know exactly what you want to do in your careers and just how to get there. Others may have some idea of your next step, but not much after that. Others still might be clear about where you want to end up eventually, but totally in the dark about how to get there. Some of you may be happy with your match, while maybe others didn't get your first choice. Surely some of you are wondering about your choices in the midst of COVID-19, perhaps thinking, this is not what I signed up for. My residency program was all wrong for me. It was in a big city, New York City, not long after 9/11. There were metal detectors and scanners like at the airport at each of the hospital entrances. It was a huge program, over 200 residents staffing 4 hospitals in Manhattan. Bellevue, one of the 4 hospitals, had its own police station and 2 floors that are the prison floors for inmates from Rikers Island. Why did I, a girl from Portland, Maine, have NYU on my list, you might ask? I chose it primarily because my husband was in graduate school at Columbia, and when I entered residency, I thought I was going to be a hematology-oncology specialist, and I liked that NYU residents staffed the cancer hospital Sloan Kettering. When I started residency, I was terrified. I had never lived in a big city before. I remember I lived on East 96th Street, and when we first moved there, I naively thought, I'll just ride my bike right down Lexington Avenue every day to the hospital. Well, I rode my bike once, It was harrowing, and I never did it again. When I left the city 3 years later, my bike was still locked up to the street sign outside my apartment because I had lost the key. I left it there, and for several years, just for fun, I would look it up on Google Maps. Still there, never to be ridden again. I learned how to deal with the summer stink of the subway, which regularly made me gag at first. Some days I would slather Vicks Vapor Rub under my nose so that I wouldn't have to smell it. I learned to love so much about New York City, though. Last-minute cheap Broadway tickets, runs through Central Park, amazing food and museums. And my heart goes out to everyone there right now and all they're going through. NYU was an intense, inpatient-focused residency program. When I finished, I was very good at taking care of critically ill people. But I was becoming a primary care doctor in Maine. The skills I had honed in my residency, like intubation, placing central lines, titrating pressors, did not prepare me to treat everyday outpatient illnesses like pink eye or skin rashes or knee pain, or even what I consider the big three in outpatient adult medicine: diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. At the same time, NYU was a great place for me to do my training. One of the reasons I was drawn to the program was that I was so impressed by the senior residents. They seemed so competent. They were calm in the event of an emergency when I felt like my pants were on fire all the time. The first time I had to wear the code pager, my face was so white the senior resident thought I might pass out. She said to me, "Look, by the time they call the code, the worst has already happened. You can only do good." And one day, months later, I was in the emergency room at Bellevue, admitting a man with a GI bleed. The emergency room at that time was one big room with a nursing station at the center. Stretchers were positioned in a circle around the nursing station, and curtains separated the stretchers. I was talking to my patient about the NG tube I needed to put down his esophagus and into his stomach when suddenly his eyes grew wide and a man, a police officer, came crashing down through the ceiling, spraying pieces of ceiling tile all over the place. Another patient in the emergency room had gone to the bathroom and had climbed up into the drop ceiling and was running around up there. I don't know why she climbed up there. Maybe she was delusional. Maybe she was just trying to get away without being seen. The Bellevue police were called to get her down. They set up ladders and they were pushing up on the ceiling tiles in an effort to locate her, but she was fast and they couldn't reach her. So one police officer decided to go up after her. He was significantly heavier than she was, and the ceiling could not support his weight. So down he came, covered in a plume of white plaster and dust, just as I was trying to insert the NG tube. Inside, I was thinking, this is craziness. You just cannot make this stuff up. There are literally people through the ceiling of the emergency room. But I calmly turned to my patient, who was terrified, and I said, "Don't worry. We're going to get you upstairs soon, and you will be just fine." And the most amazing part is that he believed me. I was becoming the calm, competent resident. My years at NYU taught me to distinguish sick from well, to prioritize and delegate work. And these past few months, as I've been in charge of my organization's response to COVID-19, I have tremendous gratitude for my years of residency, where I learned and practiced how to behave in time of crisis. Stay calm. Focus on what you can control. Communicate often and then communicate again. seek guidance and advice from trusted sources, and practice gratitude. I became a better doctor when I stopped trying to be a perfect one. Perfectionists are high achievers, and I suspect I'm not the only one here who suffers from this condition. We've all been through many years of schooling, testing, evaluations, and received external validation through people and grades telling us what we're good at and what we need to work on. For me, much of this external feedback fed the perfectionist beast inside. After graduation from medical school, the amount of external validation decreased significantly. For me, there were fewer people stroking my ego and telling me I was smart or hardworking. With that gone, I needed to ask myself some difficult questions. If I'm no longer doing things for a good grade or to impress a professor, attending doctor, mentor, what am I doing and why am I doing it? As I grew in my role as a physician and began to take on roles as a medical leader, one of the best things that happened to me as a professional was a guy named Denny, who became my professional coach. Denny had many years of experience helping clinician leaders to be more effective in their work. He helped me start the practice of honest self-reflection and reminded me, if at the end of a day you find yourself having been in the weeds all day without a thought for the why, you've probably not taken the quick daily timeout to remind yourself. He interviewed people who worked with me and gave me feedback in a way that was honest and I was able to hear. Not labeling things as strengths or weaknesses, just traits that I could and should be more purposeful in how I deploy. He also introduced me to the work of Brené Brown. Brown, a social worker by training, is a qualitative researcher and storyteller. She studies things like shame and vulnerability. She has studied thousands of people to try to determine why some seem happy and fulfilled and others do not. In her research, she has found these traits in people who are more fulfilled. First, they have the courage to be imperfect. They have compassion for themselves and for others. She has found that people who do not have compassion for themselves really can't have compassion for others. Finally, she has found that they have let go of who they thought they should be in order to be who they are. They have let go of who they thought they should be in order to be who they are. Here is what I have learned. Human connection is at the heart of what we do as medical professionals. We can't get good at human connection unless we bring our whole human selves, the parts we are proud of and the parts we would rather hide. Patients model this for us every day. They share things they're ashamed of, things they're afraid of, things they haven't shared with anyone else in the world. The man who lives in a wealthy suburb who secretly uses a bucket to catch rainwater to flush the toilet. He isolates from neighbors and friends because he does not want any of them to know he doesn't have running water. The woman who ends up in the emergency room because she didn't pick up the inhaler you ordered. She needed the money to buy groceries instead. Or simply those patients who come to you admitting they know they should stop smoking, exercise more, eat better, but they just can't get motivated. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to talk about any of these things. Rafael Campo talks about the humanness of those we serve in his poem, The Chart. Campo is a primary care physician practicing at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. He has a teaching position at Harvard Medical School and is an acclaimed poet with 8 works of books of poetry in his name. An article in Harvard Magazine describes him this way: "With patients, as with everyone, he is a physician, but also a poet, a gay man, a Latino, a striving second-generation immigrant, a husband, a brother, a person possessed of all his memories and knowledge and feelings, imperfect, but fully human." The chart says 54-year-old obese Hispanic female. I wonder if they mean the one with long black braids, Peruvian, who sells tamales at the farmer's market, tells me I'm too thin, I better eat. Or is she the Dominican with too much rouge and almond eyes at the dry cleaners, who must have been so beautiful in her youth? Or maybe she's the Cuban lady, drunk on grief, who I've seen half asleep, alone as if the bench were only hers, the park her home at last. Or else the Mexican, who hoards the littered papers she collects and says they are her documents. If not, it could be the Colombian drug addict, whose Spanish, even when she's high, is perfect. Or maybe it's the one who never says exactly where she's from, but who reminds me of my grandmother, poor but refined, lace handkerchief balled up in her plump hand, who died too young from a condition that some doctor, nose in her chart, overlooked. Each day, I try to remind myself that being imperfect takes courage. I try to listen and learn from my patients who are courageous and vulnerable with me. It has shifted how I view things. Just as the resident who told me that in a code situation you can only do good, embracing imperfection has given me permission to try new things I may have been afraid to try before. Last summer, over 400 people came to Maine from war-torn parts of the world. They had heard Portland, Maine was a welcoming place, and they came and they came and they just kept coming. The city opened the expo building for additional housing and provided cots and food. Greater Portland Health, where I work, has become one of the places that Mainers access healthcare, as we serve all people regardless of their ability to pay. Our financial assistance counselor, who himself made a journey to the U.S. with his family so they could be safe, went to the expo on a daily basis to connect people to our services. He also went to the bus station when needed to make sure that new arrivals knew just where to go. We built a makeshift clinic inside the expo and in a span of a few weeks saw over 200 new patients. Providers and staff added time to their schedules, worked weekends, shifted sites. It was amazing and inspiring to see people take the lead, to sign up, to do something when no one really knew how it could possibly work. These past few months, we focused on how to respond to COVID-19 in our community, including people experiencing homelessness who are not able to follow social distancing guidelines. I have been in awe of my staff and providers who, during a time of great change and uncertainty, have transformed what they are doing into new and different work. Our dental hygienists are taking temperatures at the front doors. Our dentist is donning PPE and staffing our outdoor COVID testing site. Our providers and counselors continue to connect with people via phone and video. For a long time, I have known that working with vulnerable populations was fulfilling and life-giving for me, but I've had a hard time explaining or even knowing why that's the case. I think it has something to do with people's courage to be imperfect. The courage I see in my patients rubs off on me. It has given me permission to connect with them as a human, not just as a doctor, as well as the courage to try new things, even if they are crazy, even if they fail. So rather than trying to always have the right answer, to be the perfect resident, the ideal doctor, I encourage you to watch, listen, and allow yourself to be imperfect. An MD after your name gives you power. People will listen to you differently. Take your opinion with more weight. A man in the emergency room who has just witnessed someone falling through the ceiling will believe you when you tell him it's going to be okay. But what are you going to do with this power? How will you wield it? I suggest that you can choose to use your power and your title with humility. You can lead with imperfection, with courage. It is refreshing and life-giving. You have the power to be leaders in your organizations, to get involved in committees with decision-making, to help make our deeply imperfect medical system work better. You have the power to be involved in your communities by speaking or serving on town council, by writing op-eds, by serving as doc of the day in the legislature, and by becoming involved in your professional organizations. Your words and actions matter. Perhaps most importantly, you can choose to share your power with others. It can be something simple, like asking every patient, "What do you like to be called?" Or by using open-ended questions like, "What are you hoping to get out of our visit today?" It is giving patients the power of choice, explaining their options in a way they can understand, and helping them realize that even in the most dire situations, they still have the power of choice. Just as my residency program was all wrong and yet just what I needed, this is both a disappointing and opportune time to graduate from medical school. There has been no time in recent history when we've needed you more than we need you now. We need your courageous, vulnerable selves to share your power with others, use your power to speak and act when necessary, and channel your power to do good in the world. Congratulations to the class of 2020.
Thank you, Dr. Renee, for sharing your experience and inspiring our newly minted Maine Track class of 2020. You have done tremendous work, and you continue to impact our community in a way that we all should aspire to in our lives and our careers. So thank you once again. I'll now ask our Dean of Students, Dr. Joe Linder, to announce the graduating class of 2020 of the Maine Track of Tufts University School of Medicine. If you're fortunate enough to be sheltering beside one of our fine young doctors, I hope you'll help celebrate them by giving them a handshake, a fist pump, a high five, or a hug. And of course, be sure you're using hand hygiene before and after those celebrations.
Congratulations, Maine Track class of 2020. It has been a privilege to get to know you all during these past few years. I'm so proud of each and every one of you. And now, here are the Maine Track graduates. Alexandra Beeling. William Bennett. Caitlin Bergeron. Mark Broadwin. Elena Craven. Ava Darvala. Michael DeLucia. Eli Dibner Dunlap. Delana Eby. Jessica Evans. James Finney. Victoria Fishman. Sydney Ford. Jody Forward. Kelsey Fry. Elliot Anye. Laura Getchell. Ben Guido. Nabil Hashmi. William Hirschfeld. Kimia Cash Cooley. Samuel Lloyd. William Long. Micah Ludwig. Owen McGuire. Anna Martens. Lauren McAllister. Parker Merrill. Robert Michaud. Antigone Mitchell. Jacqueline Ordeman. Brianna Philbrick. James Poulin. Samuel Poulin. Zachary Radford. Gabrielle Ray. Nabil Salim. Jennifer Scontras. Casey Wash. Thomas Zink. Congratulations, Maine Track Class of 2020.
Thank you, Dr. Linder, and congratulations, Class of 2020. I want to close with a few words to you and your families and friends, along with the supporters of the Maine Track program. To Class of 2020, Over 4 years ago, the Maine Track Admissions Committee saw something special in you and offered you a place in this class. And we were delighted when you accepted. You've never let us down. You have done incredibly well, impressing our faculty and staff with your passion for medicine and commitment to service of your community. You've also impressed us with your resilience. It's hard not to acknowledge the situation under which you're celebrating this great achievement. 2 to 3 months ago, who'd have thought we would be getting together virtually and not in person to give each other hugs and high fives for your great accomplishments? I have to say I was not prepared to make these comments in my basement wearing flip-flops and had to self-administer a haircut recently to prepare for the event. The coronavirus pandemic will be forever the historical context under which you became a physician. The pandemic has forever changed so much, the way we teach and learn, the way we practice, and the way we celebrate. Telemedicine and virtual visits have rapidly become a part of our healthcare delivery system. We've all had a refresher, if not first-time education, in the innate and adaptive immune responses. And RNA viruses are now in the literature and in our vocabulary in a way that was never seen before. There's been impressive recognition received by the scientific and medical communities as important components of our society as we face this pandemic. And there's been phenomenally rapid collaborations across the globe as we think about strategies to mitigate as well as treat and prevent future pandemics. The public and private scientific communities, along with the medical community and epidemiology and public health sectors, have worked well to inform our political leaders so that they can set policy to offset this. These changes, some of which we might hope are durable, are accelerating the pace of change and in some ways bringing refreshing, innovative spirit to healthcare systems. That said, more than ever, we're reminded of the importance of basic and clinical research in developing the evidence by which we treat our patients, and the importance of clinical reasoning and medical ethics in designing healthcare system delivery that is best for all in our community. We've learned a lot about social distancing or staying social at a distance like we are today, and the importance of hand hygiene in preventing the spread of communicable diseases. This same experience has reminded us all of the importance of our relationships with each other and our own well-being. I'm fully confident that you and your generation of physicians will invent our way out of this pandemic and get us back to a more normal existence through development of treatment strategies, immunization strategies, and surveillance strategies. You've certainly already contributed to the rapid evolution of use of media such as this for us to stay social at a distance. In this time of rapid evolution, I'm confident that you and your classmates will go on to become leaders in your fields, and like our keynote speaker, Dr. Renee Fay-LeBlanc, improve the health and wellness of communities throughout Maine and the country. I want to take a moment to say thanks to your families and friends who have helped each of you and become the great and remarkable people that you are. I want you to give a big hug to your family and friends if they're nearby right now. And then I want to thank also the benefactors of the program who work with us and the Tufts community to grow our scholarship programs to help offer and offset the cost of medical education. So in conclusion, congratulations, class of 2020. We're very proud of you. Thank you. I want to welcome you now to the live portion of our celebration. I got a memo from the students asking me to show solidarity, so I put on some flannel. And I hope you noticed, Dr. Berman, that I was wearing the Tufts tie during my prior remarks. It's my honor to congratulate the Teaching Award recipients. The Maine Track Class of 2020 has voted on these outstanding educators who have helped them become the doctors they are today. The first award, named for Dr. Robert S. Hillman, is the Urban Teaching Award to a member of our faculty within the Portland and greater community. It honors Dr. Hillman's many years as Chief of Medicine at Maine Medical Center and his inspirational and lifelong commitment to medical education. This year's award goes to Jane Morris, one of our neurology faculty members at Maine Medical Center. Dr. Morris has mastered the art of timely, constructive, actionable instruction to her students. Even within her high-pressure field, she always finds time to educate and debrief with her students. Dr. Morris is a leading example of the dedicated, passionate educator we value at Tufts Medical Center and Maine Medical Center. Congratulations, Dr. Morris.
Congratulations, Dr. Morris, on this well-deserved award. Thanks for being such a great teacher and helping so many of us understand neurology.
The next award is the Roger A. Renfro Rural Teaching Award in honor of Dr. Renfro's strong support and exceptional leadership in educating medical students and residents in Maine's rural communities. This year, we have two recipients of the Roger A. Renfro Award. The first is Dr. Larry Fishman, a psychiatrist in the Mid-Coast area. Dr. Fishman is an outstanding preceptor and a powerful role model. He's fully committed to medical education and models exceptional passion for the well-being of his patients. In addition to clinical skills, Dr. Fishman has also taught us the gentle art of detailed listening. Congratulations, Dr. Fishman.
Congratulations, Dr. Fishman, on a much-deserved honor. The time and effort that you put into coordinating your schedule and practice to meet the educational needs of students is truly unmatched. I'm so appreciative of the interviewing skills that you helped me develop and for making me a better physician. Thank you.
Thanks, Micah. The second recipient of the Roger A. Renfro Award is Elizabeth Lawrence, an emergency room physician also in the Mid-Coast area at Penn Bay. Dr. Lawrence has a clear love for teaching. She approaches student education by learning their interests and adapting her curriculum accordingly. Dr. Lawrence is the perfect example of the leadership and compassion it takes to be a small-town doctor. Congratulations, Dr. Lawrence.
Congratulations, Dr. Lawrence. Thank you for being such a great teacher and mentor during my time at Penn Bay. Katie and I would also like to thank you for taking the time to get us involved in both the hospital and the community as a whole.
Thanks, Sam. The next award is the Robert Bingu Resident Teaching Award in honor of our VP of Medical Education, Dr. Bob Bingu. Dr. Bob Bingu is known for his exemplary leadership and passion for innovation in medical education as a resident and faculty member at Maine Medical Center. This year's Robert G. Bingu Award goes to Dr. Brian Walker, a family medicine resident in our program. Dr. Walker's sincerity and warmth in teaching are unparalleled. He's gone above and beyond to make countless students feel like valued members of the care team. You can see Dr. Walker's genuine love of learning in his approachable, relatable teaching style. He always takes the time to check in with students, both on their well-being and in their clinical work. Congratulations, Dr. Walker.
I'm so thankful to have known you for all these years, from when I was a medical scribe and you were a third year to working with you this past year and helping me on my journey to family medicine. You've been such an inspiration to me and every student who's worked with you.
Congratulations! Thanks for being an awesome teacher. You made me feel like part of the team during my AI, and I'll never forget that we had the same Sang Thai order. Drunken noodles, spicy level 4 with chicken. We're honored to present you with this award. Congrats, Brian.
Thank you, Delana and Jackie. Our final award is the Peter W. Bates Fellow Teaching Award, and this is in honor of Dr. Bates' unwavering commitment to education and community as a fellow faculty member and Maine Medical Center's first Chief Academic Officer, and of course now our interim dean at Tufts Medical School. The Peter Bates Award this year goes to Jay Shaw, one of our cardiology fellows. Dr. Shaw cultivates curiosity and empowers all members of his team to do their best. He fosters an environment that is both challenging and supportive and is a powerful role model for patient-centered care. Dr. Shah enjoys pulling students into various procedures and has the ability to make any situation a learning opportunity. Congratulations, Dr. Shah.
Congratulations, Dr. Shaw. On behalf of my fellow classmates, I want to thank you for being such a wonderful teacher as we rotated through the cardiology service in both our 3rd and 4th year of medical school. I also want to congratulate you on finishing your own cardiology fellowship, and good luck next year at Leahy. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. That concludes our awards to be given out today. It's an honor to congratulate all of these as well as you as new doctors. It's now my pleasure to hand over the program to Doctors Laura Getchell and Elena Eby to take us into our remainder of our celebration.
All right, Maine Track, class of 2020. I think I speak for most of us when I say that the first time we started to feel like a cohesive unit was on Cow Island, which is a little wild when you think about it because it was so early on in our time together, like about day 2. But I remember taking that giant boat out to the island. I remember learning what a yurt was. I remember being nervous, as I am today, terrified and excited all at the same time. And I remember feeling intimidated by every single one of you and wondering if I belonged. Something special happened on Cow Island, though. A group of strangers, including the legendary Toby, started leading us through team building exercises. And I'll admit, I was initially skeptical of their tactics. This was the first of many humbling lessons that I would go on to learn over the next 4 years, because of course their seemingly silly games and boat building activities worked. We started getting to know each other and started setting the foundation for the incredible friendships that would blossom. Who knew that a fire pit with some music and rescuing one of the ripple effects workers in our first ever simulated patient exercise would bring us together? Well, turns out that a man named Toby and his team did. Toby doesn't know this, but he went on to quite literally become the face of the Maine Track class of 2020, with his ripple effect profile picture becoming the icon picture for our class group me. And it still is to this day. The number of times that poor Kelly had to answer the question of, can we go back to Cow Island as 4th years, is probably what drove her away from Maine Med. Just kidding, but we really miss you, Kelly. And I think we truly had the sincerest of intentions of making it back to Cow Island so that our Maine Track experience could come full circle and we could have one last outing together to celebrate all of the things that we have accomplished since we were last there together 4 years ago. Unfortunately, that plan, like pretty much every other plan that was made in 2020, is no longer feasible. But that doesn't mean that we let the dream die. So without further ado, Delana and I are beyond thrilled to present to you our M20 celebration surprise guest speaker. You guessed it, the face yoga master himself, Mr. Toby Arnold.
Thank you very much. And it's an honor to virtually be here. I've spent a lot of time over the years thinking in particular about your class as well as the many others, and it's a true honor to be here. In the spirit of sitting by fire, as we did when we met years ago, I'd like to share a story that happened to me just a few nights ago now. The other night, I had the opportunity to sit by fire. I was in need of quiet contemplation and meditation, so I decided I'd build a large fire and sit by it and watch it until it went out. I went to the woodshed and collected a large armful of dry logs and kindling and brought them to the fire and arranged them very carefully into a teepee-like structure, as I've done so many times before. I lit the fire and watched its glow come to life. Staring into the flames soon, inevitably the first log fell from the teepee. It fell to the side, consequently causing the other logs to fall and scatter, and for the flames to subdue and smolder. I instinctively reached in and then stopped for a moment. And I said I was going to sit by fire until it went out. And it is going out. Shouldn't I just sit and watch? No, another voice responded. No, that's not my nature. My role is to tend flame. So I carefully reached into the fire, as I've done so many times before, and carefully folded the fallen and scattered pieces back inward to the center, and watched as the flames grew and the fire's light and glow intensified. And so it is with our own light and our own flame. Our fire, its light and warmth are dependent on our ability to transform the fallen and scattered pieces of our practice, to rearrange them, and to take our failures and struggles and hardships and put them back into our center, brightening our light. The fire and its glow and its vitality, they're merely the fruit of our practice. They're a reflection of our ability to carefully arrange elements with a sense of care and to know what elements to select and how to nurture them. But we've all seen a good fire. There's nothing special about it. You've seen it before. And all it is simply is a merely well-organized composition of elements tended to with mindfulness. So I tended my fire and I watched and I listened to the sounds of the night. And then the thought came to me, it could rain at any time. And put this whole experiment right over with. That was beyond my control. No degree of practice could prevent that. And I looked up into the night sky and stared into the stars, the fires above. And I was grateful that the conditions were favorable for me to tend fire. As long as it's not raining, there can be fire, and I will tend to it. All of a sudden, a warm southerly breeze blew, and it instantly awoke the frogs and the peepers and all the critters that lived in the creek to my right. And all at once, a tremendous wall of sound arose from the gully. Chaotic rhythms of nature, chirping and buzzing incessantly with energy. And all it took was a moment of the right conditions. The warm wind just had to blow. And then amongst the chaotic chatter came the calming and soothing, tranquil sounds of a loon from the lake over my left shoulder. I looked and I thought, the paradox of calm serenity amongst energetic chaos. The flames were telling the same story in front of me. Millennia of flaming energy being held in the serenity of the night sky. May your practice be full of energy like fire, and may it be vibrant, but contained in the spacious, calm serenity of your own night sky. The flames began to flicker. I reached in, attempting to rearrange the meager remnants of coal and pieces, but I began to laugh because we all know how this story ends. All fires go out. No degree of practice can prevent it. You have to know when to quit, you know? You have to know when to just stop, when to just enjoy the remaining glow. And so I sat back, content and proud with my work. As I knew now, as it is for you, it's time to enjoy. You know, 4 years ago at the beginning of your medical school career, we met to identify what core elements and practices we needed to nurture in order to make it to this moment. We identified some things that we would do to nurture the collective flame. Please remember them and use them. Remember that like graduation, fire is made from non-fire elements. We must be intentional. We must nurture and care for the right elements in order for there to be flame, in order for there to be light. Remember to take the fallen and failed pieces of your practice and fold them back inward to nurture and to brighten your flame. Remember, it's the nature of fire to burn out. But a well-protected, well-tended to fire with a good supply of resources and elements, it can burn indefinitely. Please Nurture and tend to your flame with a sense of care and kindness. Remember that flames are full of energy. They burn. So hold them in a cool, spacious awareness as the night sky has held the fiery stars for as long as they have existed. Remember, as long as there is a fire, it must be tended to. The practice is constant, and it doesn't end until the last flame flickers or until the rains come. Tend to your fire with a sense of care and kindness so that the whole world may be brighter from your light. So go and make a big fire and stay up all night and sit by it and watch. I promise it is great fun. And if not, and if anything I've said is wrong, then please excuse me. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be imbued with loving kindness. And may your fire burn bright for a long, long time. It is a great honor and pleasure. Many thanks, kind thoughts, congratulations, and be well, my friends. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toby. As we come to the close of our 4 years in Maine Track, we would also like to acknowledge and thank all of the incredible faculty, attendings, residents, and hospital staff in all of Maine Track's affiliated hospitals, as well as the entire Maine Track medical education team. We could not have made it to this moment without you. We would also like to say a special thank you to Dr. Joe Linder, Dr. Doug Sawyer, Dr. Bob Bingyu, Dr. Bob Trowbridge, Dr. Maribeth Ford, Dr. Carl Gurman, Dr. Vicki Hayes, Dr. Frank Chessa, Kelly, Bethany, Michaela, Patty White, and the many others for helping us coordinate our lives. We would also like to thank the entire planning committee, shout out to Mackenzie, Caitlin, and Ashley, for putting this event together so we can still have this special time in the midst of a pandemic. Now, we would like to raise a glass to toast to the Tufts Maine Track Class of 2020. Congratulations, doctors. Thank you all for joining us this morning. The live stream to YouTube will be ending shortly. We invite the students, faculty, and staff to remain in the Zoom meeting. Thank you for helping us celebrate the Maine Track Class of 2020.